Howdy, Sarah. Checking in on me, I see. Make sure I'm doing this right. Get a few more people on here real quick, and we'll bring Kyle on board. Sarah, I need all the help I can get. You already know that. You haven't known me that long yet. Sean Anthony, what's going on, buddy? All right, we're going to fire this thing up here shortly, guys. You guys are rolling in here pretty good. Jason Adams, good to see you. All right. I appreciate it, guys. Everybody on here joining in tonight. I got Kyle Wieder from Adrenaline on here with me tonight. I'm going to bring him on board right now, and you guys can meet him if you haven't already met him, and we'll do some talking.
Hey guys. Kyle. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Good, buddy. Good. Turkey season.
And, turkey season. Yep.
Which is outside of our realm a little bit. It's actually my downtime. I don't really take a video camera with me and just go out there and shoot them in the face. And,
yeah, I hear you. Here, turkey season, mushroom hunting. It's getting ready to start going crazy for me. So
I'm in the western side of Central Illinois.
Yep.
You're in the eastern side of Central Illinois, correct?
Yes, sir.
What town are you close to?
The biggest town would be Champaign, Illinois.
Okay. All right.
It's right off 74. Yep. Yeah. I'm actually southeast about 30 miles.
I am about 30 minutes straight east of St. Louis.
Yeah. Yep.
I could be down. I can be crossing the river by the Arch in like 30 to 35 minutes.
Oh, really? Yeah. For me to get in that area, it's about a good 3-hour drive for me to get over there where you're at.
Yeah. Okay. So, but we're still in a planting zone, basically, is what I was thinking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I have to look at a bag every time I do this. I'll call you.
I know how that goes. I've been planting for 25 years, and I still look at the bag sometimes.
You find any sheds in your food plots or anything like that?
I've been on the road doing the show circuit all spring. Been able to get out a day or two here. I've only found 6 this year. All of them in the food plots except one.
Wow. So I left a couple of my Antler King plots alone. I always find them either right on the fringe of the food plot or just off what I call the hogbacks, which are within about 80 yards of the food plots normally. Where the ridges kind of drop down, and right before they drop off real steep, right exactly. On those knobs. I call them hogbacks. I always find a lot of antlers there, and I left it alone. I actually left it alone a little too long this year because I had one buck in particular. I was waiting for him to drop both sides. I kept getting pictures of him on my cameras.
Yep.
When he finally dropped both sides, I went in there and I found 19.
Wow.
But, the squirrels got to a lot of them, and then the buck I was trying to find, I couldn't find his antlers. I don't know where he went. So, shocker, huh?
Yeah. Oh, that's shocker. I had that happen this year with the big boy I was chasing, and when I had a neighbor to the west of me, we thought that I knew he'd been living over there because he actually had some heart issues and he couldn't come and hunt 90% of the season this year. Right. And that deer, picture wise, he was coming to and from, and I knew he was staying over there. And luckily Greg's better now, and he got to come go shed hunting. He spent 3.5 hours in there, and I went the day after and spent another 4 hours in there, and we couldn't find his antlers for nothing. So it's driving me nuts.
I understand that. It's one of the ways, and I mean it so heartily. For this time of year, it's one of the ways that I utilize Antler plots. It's to leave them alone.
Yeah.
If you plant enough and you leave them alone, you plant the right stuff.
Yep.
Deer in enough, they'll start dropping their antlers right around the edges because they're not bed very far. It's bed to feed.
No.
And on a normal year, it's been a weird year for me though. It's because our bucks, for whatever reason, they held onto their antlers. They're stingy. They hung on to them way too long.
Yep.
Started to green up on us. So it makes it. Now we're getting into turkey season, and I'm actually still doing a little bit of shed hunting. but normally I find, we have several different small farms, and I got one decent sized farm, anywhere from 45 to 55 sheds a year. I mean, I'm not, out there like some of these guys are beating the bushes and finding 100 to 200 sheds a year.
Right, right,
I'm not going to creep over to the neighbors. I just don't do that kind of stuff.
right.
And so, we find what we find, and I'm kind of scouting the whole time anyway, which leads me to one of the reasons I might adjust one of my food plots, uh, you know, by my aerial. I'm looking at my aerial photos to begin with, and I'll be like, okay, this thing seems like this would be a great spot for a food plot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because we're talking, a lot of these are like little nooks and crannies. Like I forget what is the name of this podcast. Is it like Backwoods Plots or something like that we were talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right up my alley, because a lot of the stuff we're doing is on smaller tracks and they're tucked in there real far or whatnot. And so what I'll do is this time of year while I'm shed antler hunting, I do a lot of scouting. It's hard to find antlers when you're looking around at a lot of deer signs.
Right,
I trip over some antlers actually to find them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do learn a lot about the deer by doing that. And then I've adjusted it several times. Like, oh, we need to move this plot this way or that way. A lot of times I realize that deer are bedding in a spot that they weren't before. So then I'll go, okay, now I got to have myself a little feed plot of protein, whether it be clover or something, right close to the bedding. Right, so when the bucks get up, especially this time of year, they've had the deal. They've had a rough winter and everything else. They get up to feed. First thing turns green's your clovers, and they get in there and they get all that protein in them right away and start building them back up. That's one of our strategies. I will hunt those a little bit during the rut or whatever if I feel like it's right, but for the most part, those are just for this time of year as a perennial.
Exactly.
So you do that kind of thing too as well, or?
I do. I actually do. Now I probably hunt my clover plots probably a little more than most. I have had a lot of success hunting a good protein clover plot, especially our trophy clover plot. Actually, early season, even into the winter, where I'm at, and we don't get. And you noticed it too, but I hear this year we had the worst winter we've had in a long time with cold weather, with some snow, stuff like that. Usually we don't get it till after season's over with, and even so, I mean, I have deer dig through the clover and stuff, or through the snow to get to the clover and stuff. But I'm doing the same thing you are out there. I'm 99% of the time I'm scouting more than I am shed hunting, and it's just it's the best time to do it with the foliage off. You can see what's going on. You can see what kind of activity you had through there, and that's one of my favorite times to do it.
And you can see the rubs, buddy.
You can see them. Oh, they stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, and I just seen a question. A guy asked about aerial photos, like from a plane or a drone. No, like literally from pick an app, right? It could be you maybe use like Onyx Maps or Hunt Stand or whatever.
Hunt Stand. Yeah.
And those things right there on your phone. As I'm standing there, it gives you your location, and you're looking around, going, okay, this makes sense as to why the deer are using this, how they're using it. Sometimes I've come across spots. I'm like, I have no idea why they're doing what they're doing right here, but they're doing it. Right?
They're doing it.
All I got to do is plan myself accordingly to how I can get in and get out and be able to hunt that.
Right.
So real quick, like an example, on the north side of one of my farms, it's a nothing spot. I mean, you would maybe a lot of guys would overlook it. Okay, even I overlooked it for 3 years. I'm like, it's just not a country road's not very far away. There's a lot of weird things to me. I'm sitting there, I'm watching school buses go by. But I'm basically on the north side of a big block of timber, and on the south end of it, it drops down to a big mouth and it opens up like this. And so I have a staging plot there. And that's actually one of my clover plots. I have a staging plot there, which the deer will go there, they'll stage, and then they'll work their way out to the big ag fields in the evening, right?
Right.
And then in the mornings they come back in, right? Well, I'm far enough to the north of all of that to where I'm right north of the does bedding areas. And it's one of those things I went in there and thought, and I'm going to hunt this to make sure these does are bedding in here. I mean, I kind of figured they might have been. I hunted it, and you would not believe. Well, I mean, you would, right? It's the rut. So the bucks that are going east to west and west to east, right, on a south wind, because they can cover that entire track. I mean, cover that entire patch of woods, and just, they're not going to walk directly into the wind. They're going to walk at a crosswind for the most part, check all that bedding. And buddy, I was bucks after bucks. But the bucks I was trying to kill, I actually shot a buck I called Floyd in there. 2021, I believe. No, 2020. Sorry. So,
20?
Yeah, 2020. I'm getting old. It all mixed runs together. But but that's all part of the strategy of how we're setting things up. as far as like I tell everybody here, look, I actually took some notes because we're having an issue with one of our dogs and he may not last much longer. So my mind's in kind of scatterbrained. So I told Robbie, I said, I'm taking some notes to like help this along a little bit so I can keep myself focused. But, you know, I appreciate that very much. You know, but it is true. Like planting plots is one of the, and I said it on the show many times, it's one of the most effective ways to attract, keep, and grow deer on your farm and keep them there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It don't even have to be a large tract of ground. It depends on how you're hunting it.
Right.
And, you know, like some of our farm, we got 40s, we got 80-acre pieces. We got a one that's almost 700 acres, and that's the big one. Then we got a 200-acre piece, and they're not a large tracts for the most part, right? So you got to be really cautious on where you plant, how you get in there, what you're going to plant, what kind of a food plot you're going to plant. Like, you know, I have what I call feed plots, kill plots, staging plots, and which I think you wanted to talk about kill plots a little bit, where how we put the blockers up in there and all that.
Yeah. Put that up in there. We talk about some backwoods plots. Talk about a little bit of everything. Yeah, just keep on rolling, bud. You're covering it pretty good, actually. I don't got to say a word.
Oh, sorry. On a smaller tract of ground, which is what a lot of guys have, right? Most guys don't have thousands of acres. I don't have thousands of acres done. No. Not one tract. I feel like our kill plots are some of the most effective. Now, and the reason I'm being is because a kill plot, okay, let me explain a kill plot. A kill plot isn't just going out and planting a beautiful stretch of Antler King clover. It can be a kill plot, but the way I design kill plots is we have blockers in our plots, which could be, you know, standing corn. Well, now you guys have barricade and whatnot now.
Yeah.
But it could be standing corn. Shockingly enough, even whenever it's standing beans and I can put strips in, those deer will still follow those strips of Antler King and walk right by. So, I mean, if you watch the show at all, you've seen us shoot them right out of there, you know.
Yep.
It's the simplest thing, too. It's not hard to do. And we always try to put it like an X in the center. I wish I had a way to show you guys an aerial photo of this, but we put like an X in the center of the food plot in the with lanes, right? So the bucks, no matter what, you call to them, they can kind of see, but they can't see. It's the old adage, curiosity killed the cat, right?
Right.
And so what they end up doing, they end up coming into that next block because they couldn't see past this, whatever, the 5 or 6 rows of standing corn and get into the next lane. When they do that, it puts them right in our lap. You know, same thing with the standing beans. But you can see them walk around as standing beans, but for whatever reason, they still have that mindset that if I just go over to this next lane, I can walk right up in there, right? And we've killed several that way. So I would recommend that to most anyone on smaller tracks, especially, but works like a charm on big tracks as well. But on smaller tracks of ground, things like that is to really get them. You get the deer to feel really secure. They feel secure feeding in there because they got these blockers right next to them. They always feel like they got some sort of cover.
Right.
And they walk right up the lanes to you. And plus, you know, on a small tract of ground, every single move counts that a bow hunter makes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you make the wrong move 1 or 2 times, you're done, right? Well, with those blockers in there, helps you get in and out as well, right? So that's where the barricade's really coming into play.
It does.
You know, that's, man, people just don't realize that barricade's super important for, you know, because your entry and exit is, to me, it's every bit as important as when you're sitting there.
Right.
I mean, how many times you guys go, oh, man, I hunted this plot and I've been seeing 20 deer. And a week later, I'm like, man, I only seen like 4 or 5.
Right. Yep.
Why is that?
Exactly.
Let's put this together. So, you know, they're creatures of habit, but they don't like to be pressured, you know?
No.
But,
and you know, with that, for years, we had a perennial shield and bedding, you know, similar to barricade as a perennial. And, you know, I used it a lot, but, you know, I only used it. I got one of my properties, actually, I block off a road on a power line that I have plots all down. Cars want to stop by, blow the deer off at night, looking out binoculars, you know, just like we all do. We love watching deer. But back then, I never thought about using it to direct deer to my standard blind. I never thought about it. And the last 5 years, I've been doing that. And man, it is awesome how you can actually, just like you do with them ag fields and do your strips in there, you can bring them to pretty much wherever you want them to. I mean, they follow them. And I mean, and you know, now correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking it was this season, Kyle, your first 2 episodes of your show, they were dedicated to food plots and how you strategize on doing that. Was that this year or was that last year? I can't remember.
You're going to ask this question.
It was a person show. I'll tell you what, we got to
I
figure
even
out.
edit this show and I can't remember. So
Yeah, if anybody's on here that wants to watch it, if they can get to your shows, them I know it's the person, and the second episode was unbelievable with food plot knowledge. I mean, you were showing it to a T on how to set them up, how you run them across the fields,
okay.
aerial footage.
That was the 2020 episodes. The
That's
last
2020. Okay.
the first couple of episodes. Yeah, we talk about actually we do talk about feed plots, kill plots, and staging plots, and the necessity of it all, right?
Yes, you do.
And I understand that not everybody has the canvas of a property to be able to paint it like we can paint it, right? We can put clover by their bedding, and I understand all of that, but you can take little bits of that, right?
Right.
And
Right.
figure out how to use it for yourself, right? But the
Exactly.
biggest key is do your postseason scouting, understand how the deer are using the farm, because then you can understand how you can hunt the farm, which tells you where you can put your plots to make it all work out, right? I mean, it's great to have a plot just for deer to feed.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Yeah, it keeps them there. I understand that. Like I talk about it in that one episode. There was a study. It was a 5-year study of radio collar deer and food plots. Okay, and during that study, it said deer that relied on that food source, like that type of food source, right? If they didn't have a bunch of acorns or whatever, they lived within 95% of the time. They lived within a half a mile of the food plot. And most of that time was spent within 1/4 of a mile. Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
So that being said, we know it holds them, and we know which is going to help grow them, help them keep them healthy. But the flip side of that is if you're going to hunt that and you're going to hunt it wrong, you gotta be careful because they're there, right?
They were.
They may never leave. They may just shift to night patterns. You'll never catch them. Right.
Right.
Catch up.
Exactly.
I
look at, like tonight we're wanting to talk a little bit about backwood plots, smaller acreage. I have some properties that, I don't have areas for big food plots. I mean, all I can do is get in the woods somewhere, clear an area out, put some, we have 2 different varieties that we use very well. Our Game Changer Clover, which is a perennial blend, or No Sweat, which is an annual blend. But the biggest mistake I see a lot of people doing is they get a piece of property and they walk into it and they see this little open knob over here. And they're like, I'm going to put a food plot right there. And then they do it. And then they realize, I can't get in there to hunt that. I can't get to it without deer. I get that a lot,
Yeah.
And it's something that where that plot is just as important as anything else. You got to be able to enter it and exit it without blowing deer out of there. Now, if you just want the plot there just for a food source and you're going to hunt over here on the 40, different story. But if you want to use it for a kill plot, you got to make sure and do your homework and think, man, can I get a stand in here? Can I get in and out of there without getting detected, so I don't burger the property up? So, I mean,
that goes right back to your postseason scouting a little bit to understand.
Exactly, it does. Yeah.
I mean, best case scenario, you can alter a deer's movement. We know this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
By different things. But if the deer want to use it in a natural way, and you can use that to your advantage, I mean, man, that's the best of both worlds,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Real quick, you were talking about that barricade. I wanted to bring while you were talking about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had an issue with a buck. I called this buck the regulator. Okay. Big typical 10. He was on the farm for years, up front, and one of those deer that he's 9 lives, right? I mean, he's 20 yards out of range, or he's gets downwind, one season, just some crazy stuff happened with this deer. But the thing about the deer, he was always on what I call the king plot. Okay. The deer I killed, that really big buck. So the buck was called the king. So I call it the king plot. So everybody, my buddies, know what I'm talking about when I say the king plot.
Right.
One of those deals. So he was in there. I had cameras all around there, Well, I got so many cameras, it's ridiculous. But he was on 3 cameras every day of his life. Okay. For the most part. I put a picture of him on Facebook, and no baloney, within 2 days, I never got a picture of that deer ever again. So, but he was close to the road. Okay. And the locals know where I'm at, right? They don't know about most of the farms. Maybe they do. I don't know. But they know about one farm in particular, and the locals around that one particular farm can be rough for whatever reason. And that barricade, if I'd have had that stuff planted up along the road, because I'm telling you how a lot of deer, and there's nothing wrong with crossbow hunting. I think it's great. Kids and the guys that, whatever. You're getting older, you can't pull a compound. I don't care. Shoot a crossbow. It's fine with me. Right. But when they're using them to spotlight and poach deer, that's a big problem.
That's the problem.
And that's what's happening. And I've actually talked to our local game wardens about it. And they're like, that's exactly what's happening.
Yep.
And it's hard to catch it, somebody that's doing something like that. So that barricade probably would have saved, I'm not saying would have for sure, but probably would have saved that buck's life. Because I'm pretty sure he got poached, because there's no reason why he would have just stopped showing up on cameras. None of the neighbors around there that I know of killed him. You know how they always find out who killed what.
Oh, yeah, deer like that especially. Yeah.
Yeah. So none of that happens. It's like, okay. Another funny story about another reason to have some barricade up. We've been having, and I've never heard of this, and the local game wardens know about this as well. We've been having a drone fly over top the front of the farm at night.
Really?
Yes. This has just happened like less than a month ago again. We don't know what they're doing. And how do you catch that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
The barricade ain't that good.
No. Well, but it would stop them from seeing them during the day.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
So, and then flip side of that is the barricades also, like we talk about getting in and out. You guys, like you said, they just go to plant a food plot somewhere because I hear this a lot. Well, that's the only spot the farmer will let me plant.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Well, that doesn't mean you should plant there necessarily. Right. Maybe don't touch it at all, right? Yep. Maybe it's going to mess up how, sometimes you just got to, that is an essential tool in my opinion.
Right. Exactly.
It is. It's an essential tool to get in and out. I mean, without being detected, right? So, and it's it's new to us. It's because you guys had just come out with it. Like, was it last year you guys came out with it? Or the year before?
We brought it out the year before. Yep.
Yeah, we started utilizing it. And just like, I actually got some test bags, so I felt kind of cool. Like I was like compared to the regular Joe. But I was like, this stuff's awesome. And
it is.
I did utilize it for blockers and also in one, because I have a big open clover plot that is it's actually just a feed plot, and I put a strip right down the middle, and I put another strip this way and just crisscrossed it, and we didn't kill a deer out of it. But buddy, let me tell you what, the bucks, they'll be in one spot, right? And this stuff's like 6, 7, 8 foot tall, and you'll rattle, and they're like, they'll look and they can't stand it. They can't see, so they got to come through into the next little section while they're in bow range. Right.
Yep.
But we never saw a buck that was old enough that we wanted to shoot, but we did mess with a bunch of them in there. We're rattling at them and whatnot.
And that's the perfect way to use it. I mean, that if that buck can't see it, he's going to come and look for it. So I mean, using that barricade, it's a phenomenal tool for that.
It's putting a picture in a deer's head. You're just painting. All you're doing is he's like thinking, oh, there's a grunt and there's some rattling over there. There's got to be a doe. I'm at least going to go look. Right.
Yep.
No, you know how it is, but as far as like small, like what's the smallest, I'm asking you questions now, what's the smallest plot that you'll actually plant?
I've always told people there's no such thing as too small of a plot, but there actually is, depending on what you plant. I look at it, if you're planting a small area, and I mean, I have guys that actually call me even on 3,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot. I'm talking small little areas, but that's all they have. So I mean, all to them for trying to get something planted. But you need to plant something that's going to continue to give you forage. They're wanting to plant 3,000 square foot of honey hole. Well, the deer are going to wipe it out pretty quick. You got very many numbers. You need to get some perennials in there. You need to get something that's going to grow the cereal rice, something like that that's going to keep growing. So really, to answer your question, I still think there's no such thing as too small a one. It just depends on what you're planting in it.
Perennial, right?
Yep. A perennial, exactly. And most people, they shy away from a perennial, especially when you say clover. They're like, well, the farmer's got a whole bunch of it in his field over there. Well, that's a lot different clover than what the forage clover is that you're using for deer. And then they think you're just trying to be a salesman, and it's like, no, you got to plant it to try it and see it for yourself, and you'll understand.
I'll say this to anybody that would be watching is I'm not a salesman. I just found a way to be able to make a living, hunting deer. Right. And I stand by this. You will no longer, and I said this 2 years ago, and I meant it. I've been this way ever since. You'll no longer see Adrenaline ever use any products that we don't believe in. I'm done with it. Right. I almost left the hunting industry because I got tired of that whole rigmarole, right? Of like, hey, viewers watch the show, they think it's just a sales pitch, and then it just becomes a mess. So I started doing the show how I wanted to do the show, editing the show. I do all the work on it, the whole deal, scripting, everything, and hunt my farms where I want to hunt them. We go after the deer I want to go after. I am not after numbers of deer. I'm
Right.
not. I'm after quality. I'll just be honest. People are like, yeah, you're after trophy deer. I am. I'm not gonna lie. I am.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
exactly.
if I want meat, I shoot does, right?
Yep.
And then the bucks get a chance to get big. Now, mind you, we have some, bully 8 pointers and whatnot. I shot one this year. The first buck I shot,
Right. Right.
shot him this year just to get him off the farm.
Yep.
Because I wasn't. I'll tell you the story. I wasn't gonna shoot the deer. You come right. Okay, here it is. Kill plot, design, set up. Right. I got a southwest wind. I'm on the north side of this plot. I got a lane through the standing corn, and it's full of. I actually did a mixed bag of honey hole, and I overseeded with oats in that lane. I went heavy on the oats because that was the only lane that I had going past the stand that I needed him to be in. Right. Well,
Mhm.
sure enough, here comes the buck I call Shano, and he's coming right. He comes out, and he's coming right to me. I'm sorry. First of all, the bully buck came out first, but the Shano buck's following right behind him. And this
Yep.
was, well, I had Shano in there in November, and long story short, he come right down the lane with some does, and for whatever reason, like big bucks do, does come right down that lane, feeding right past me. I'm like, I got him. He's going to come right in. He's going to be at 18 yards.
Yep.
He gets 27 yards facing me. He's standing there, looking around. He looks at them does. Wind's in my favor. He turns around, walks straight away from me. Like, didn't offer me a shot. Like, didn't even. I went, meh, meh. He didn't even stop. I'm like, turn. Kind of like, give me something, and nothing. Walk straight away. Well, on December, I think it was the 21st or the 20th of December, I was hunting that same stand, but it turned into a post rut hunt at that point, obviously. Now I'm hunting the food source, and a lot of deer were coming in there, and that bully buck come out first, and right behind him was that Shano buck, and the Shano buck's like 6-year-old, big 170 class typical 10, and this bully buck, I don't know, he's probably 6, 7 years old. He might go 130 if he had
Right.
everything, but he had broken brow tines. I mean, he's a bully, right? He's a mess.
Right. Bully
Well,
buck. Yep.
yeah, he's got Napoleon syndrome or something. But so uh, he comes in first, and then Shano's coming in right behind him. I thought he's gonna, and this bully buck's at like 18 yards. And here comes Shano. He's gonna same deal. He's gonna walk. That bully buck all of a sudden looked over his shoulder at that Shano buck, and he blew up, and he walked him off the field. I thought, buddy, you come back. Tonight's your night. Okay.
Yep.
So, and he ended up coming back. So guess what? I shot him that night.
End of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, hear me out. If it wouldn't have been for the way the food plot was set up
Mhm.
and what was actually planted, because still real green at that point with the oats and everything in
Right.
our neck of the woods, them bucks wouldn't have been in there like that.
Right.
So I mean, it's all it's a all encompassing when it comes to planting a food plot. It's not just, hey, let's plant something here and hope that it works for late season. And there's a lot more to it.
Right.
And I don't even know if we could get it all out on Facebook Live. I mean, there's just so much.
They're way too much. Yeah, you're exactly right.
And that's why I said we could do this again anytime you want to, man, because I can talk forever.
Oh, we definitely will. Oh, I'm the same way. You get to talk about food plots and deer. It's just something I just start. I can't quit. It just keeps going. And I talk all day long to people on the phone about it, and I still can't quit. It's just. I actually have got to the point where I almost enjoy planting food plots, watching them grow, watching the deer eat in them more than I do hunting them. I mean, I just enjoy it.
I laugh. I'm laughing to myself when you say that because you're talking to a guy that we do a TV show, right? We're supposed to shoot deer, right? Okay. I'm not that mad at him.
Yep.
I mean, I think I really do feel like the audience would rather see us using quality products that we believe in, having some big encounters, but maybe a miss or whatever. You shoot some management bucks, but you don't. If you're going to talk the talk about shooting big deer and growing big deer, you better walk the walk, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And then, I don't know. Our audience has kind of come with us down that road. For a while, I had some sponsors. I like to call them partners instead of sponsors because it is a partnership, right? I had some sponsors / partners getting on me like, hey, you guys need to be shooting more deer. And I'm like, no, we don't. That's not what we're doing, right? We're showing how to hold deer, manage for big deer, keep them healthy, all that sort of thing, right?
Right.
in the long run, it's worked out for us. Now we've got this like really cool audience that follows us along anywhere we go, and they're all in 100%. They believe what we're doing, and I have a lot of conversations with guys that'll just hit me up on Messenger or whatever else, and end up giving me the number. We'll talk on the phone about what can they do to their farm.
Right.
I mean, it's just I like that whole deal, man. I really do.
It is.
And along the way, I've been fortunate enough to get to shoot some deer, so it all
Right.
works out, right? Which is why I started wanting to do this anyway.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I've got to meet some really cool people like yourself and the guys at Antler King. I mean, the product is. People can say it's a sales pitch. I'm just telling you, I could choose to use whatever I really wanted to.
Right. Exactly.
Then we start to work with you guys, and it's just like, the product is the second to none. There's nothing out there that's any better. Period. End of story. Right.
Right.
And the different strategies and the different styles and the different types of food that you guys are coming out with. I'm just like, I shake my head, just like,
right.
You guys are like mad scientists, man.
Yeah. And you made a comment earlier that kind of stands us out from a lot of them. Is you made the comment of us sending you Barricade to try out. All right. Our testing process, that's where it's at. Anybody can take seeds, throw them in a bag, seal them up, put them on a shelf for sale. And, when it comes to us, when we're putting out a product like we are right now, we're working on one for 2024, actually, right now. But we're sending this product to you guys. We're sending it to the Kiskies. We're sending it to Backwoods Life down in Georgia. It's going up north. Mike Pelletier is getting up Michigan. We're sending this stuff all over, and it might take multiple years to get it to where we want it. We might have to change percentages here and there to get it where we want it and to see where it grows the best. And our testing, that's what sold me years ago on the product before I ever even worked for the company. I couldn't get over on, one mix taking 3 to 4 years to literally test out to get it right before you put it on the market.
But look what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
When it hits the shelf, it's done.
It's done.
So you're telling me that you guys send me subpar product to test? Is what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah. You're actually getting ready to get some for this year. So,
okay.
Yeah. You're getting ready to get one here real soon, actually. So you got a new annual mix you're going to try out. So
sweet. I'm all about that. I like to hear that.
I can't say too much about it right now, but yeah, you're going to get it.
I'm trying to help the audience out here. Come on, what is it, Robbie? I'm kidding. No.
My pro staffers that are all on here right now don't even know, so they're going to be yelling at me. But yeah, you guys are going to be getting some. So.
Well, good. I look forward to that because I feel like the thirst for whitetail knowledge. I actually think my voiceover guy says this. It is true. The thirst for whitetail knowledge is constantly growing, right? So that means the quest is like, okay, what can we feed them now to get them bigger, stronger, faster type of thing, right? Or just keep them healthy in general. In our neck of the woods, which I'm not very far from you, we can have a tough winter, right? So I do have to worry about the deer herd a little bit. Now you get up north, I mean, oh gosh, was it like 2 or 3 years ago? Like people were putting pictures on social media of deer that were bedded, that were ice, they were frozen, they froze.
Yeah.
Thank gosh we don't have to deal with that so much where we're at.
Right.
Feel bad for the guys that have to deal with that. But in saying that, having a quality product that keeps your deer healthy. I mean, and in Illinois, neither one of us we can't put any mineral out either. So we're really we're relying on what they can get out of the food plots that we put in for them. I mean, I obviously people are going to argue and say, well, they got browse and they got acorns. I understand all of that.
Yeah.
But I want them to feed in my plots, and they're going to want to. Their body tells them what they need, and if it's a high protein source, the highest protein source they can get, that's where they're going to be.
Right.
So it's things like that, So,
and exactly, because if you look at a feed program, you want to, them deer need a very high protein feed source, especially this time of year into early fall. Then after that rut, then bucks are really looking for a high energy food, not bucks, but deer in general, looking for a high energy food source. So a lot of people are pouring the energy feed to them to get that deer built back up through the winter. Because a buck can never be at his full potential if his body's not already at a full potential when growing season starts. So with somebody like you and I, we cannot feed here to help them deer out, but we can plant the high protein food, and we can also plant the high energy food source, such as our honey hole, and give them deer what they need to by planting food plots. It doesn't have to just be a feed type situation.
Exactly, and that's it is tougher for us in compared to other states where you can use mineral and whatnot to help them recover. But that's a testament to how good the product really is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I look forward to this new product you're telling me about.
That's a good one.
I see that there's a question that says what state is Adrenaline out of? We are out of Illinois, right?
Yep.
Illinois is a great state to hunt whitetails, man. I'm very fortunate. Grew up here my entire life. We're not going to get into politics of Illinois, but we'll talk about okay. The deer are pretty awesome here. It's becoming a bit underrated, I suppose, because Iowa's taking the crown, so to speak, whatnot, and the other. But Illinois still holds the records.
They do. Yep.
And one of them wasn't taking too far from you, what? That big non-tip?
30 minutes south of my property. Yep.
Yeah. So we happen to be in an area where the genetics are really good as well. But in saying that, I've hunted all over Illinois. I mean, I'm from Peoria, let's say Peoria, all the way down to the southern tip of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good hunting. People ask, "What's the best? What's this that?" It's by property a lot of times. I mean, I understand deer density comes into play,
right.
But again, it's Illinois. It's the Midwest. Right. Everybody comes here to hunt.
Exactly. Right.
And then if you take Illinois versus Iowa versus Wisconsin versus Missouri, Missouri to me is an underrated state. Not a lot of people talk about Missouri for I think because they feel like they have a rifle season and it's a big problem over there or whatever.
Right.
But Iowa's if the DNRs of the Midwest would just look at what Iowa's doing and just follow that, could you imagine how good Illinois would be?
Oh, it'd be ridiculous. It would
be astonishing.
It would. Yeah.
Anyways, and then I seen a guy ask me if I could put a drawing up of a kill plot. Maybe I could post a picture later. You guys can put it up.
There you go.
Or I'll send it to you or something like that.
And I think we had one question on there too. I was going to look. I think it was from Don. Let's see here. I've seen some of the pro staff guys were talking to him about it. Where are we at? Right here. Have some seed left over from last year. What do you think about just mixing it all together and see what happens? Don, with me, I know that's kind of a pet peeve of mine that I don't like doing.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Number one, it really depends on what you're mixing together. But just like we were talking about the testing process a little bit ago, if you don't get them percentages just right with certain things, they're going to compete. They're not going to grow well together. They're going to starve each other out. It's best to use what's in the mixes. I wouldn't recommend mixing a bunch of stuff together.
So you talk about these backwoods plots, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We haven't gone over soil testing.
No, we haven't. Not yet.
No.
Nope.
That's critical. I mean, yeah, you can get lucky and it'll come up, right? Wow, that was great because your nitrogen and everything is perfect in the soil, but that's a rarity, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
I've had a lot of guys say, "Well, I used the seed you told me to use and it didn't come up." I said, "Well, hold on. Did you do soil samples and everything else?" Or like, I said, "I told you to do soil samples, and all that." And it makes a big difference. It makes a huge.
That pH is the tattletale right there. That's either going to break you or make you. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, pretty much how much money they're throwing away by using fertilizers in a low pH soil. The plant can't utilize 100% of that fertilizer. So, and I try to tell people, yes, okay, this mix says it'll grow on a 5.5. It will. But if you bump that up to a 6.0 to 6.5 to 7, the amount of forage difference and the healthiness of them plants, the difference you see is going to be mind-blowing to you. So just putting lime down and checking your soil, that's the cheapest thing you can do for a food plot. And one of the easiest steps to do. And that's the most missed step that people do. They just will not take the time to do it. They just think throwing fertilizer down is good enough. and they're just pretty much throwing $100 bills on the ground when they're not in the soil.
That's good. You also put about $300 or $400 on a pile and burn it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Small plot, you know.
Yep.
The bigger the plot, the more money you're burning.
Exactly. Yep. And you know, we got a product called Plot Max, and a lot of people think it's what they call the so-called liquid lime. It is not. It's actually humic acid that breaks down that soil. Yes, it will spike the pH up a little bit, but that's not what it's there for. It's there to break down that soil and to allow that nutrients to get to that root system better. So,
Right.
So a lot of people think, well, I'll just use Plot Max, and the Plot Max is going to take care of my lime, and it's not. It's not designed for that. It's not made for that. It is literally a soil conditioner. So, and it does help, but you still need to get that pH up.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously do soil samples on all of our food plots. And my guys as well. I mean, I have a staff of guys as well that help, shoot animals for the show and everything else. And every one of them, same thing. I mean, we've all been doing it long enough. We've all thrown $100 bills on the ground, like you said.
Right. Oh yeah.
Enough times. You know what? Let's just do this right. And
Yep.
here's the thing about it too, man. When it's done right, boy, the local deer herd, it's just like they're even more attracted to it.
Right.
I mean, they come. I mean, it's a big difference between, like you said, the farmer's clover plot down the way, whatever, and yours that you've done right and you doctored it just right. Yep. Man, what a difference that makes. I mean,
it doesn't. And most of your plants, it's going to sweeten the plant up, and it's going to make it more palatable for them. Just like with honey hole. Honey hole will grow in a 5.5 pH, but you got a good chance there. Them plants aren't going to turn as sweet as they should. And then people wonder why the deer didn't hit them. They're walking through them. Well, then plants aren't turning sweet. You need to get that pH build up, to get that nutrients into it. And but actually, I got a question before it bounces through here. Sean is asking. Actually, I'll go back to this real quick. I think there was one on here that you need to answer. How long you been using Antler King products?
Since 2015, I believe. I'm not sure, but I believe it was 2015 or 16. Right. Yeah, but the barricade was, I think last year was our first filming year with it officially.
That would have been, yeah. Yep. Yeah. And actually, that comes to the next question is back to the barricade. How wide do you typically plant it? Now, like with me, I plant 8 foot, and it depends on where I'm going to plant it, but I plant 8 foot.
8 to 10 foot. Just depends on how things go,
Yeah. Me, like I've said on these shows multiple times, I have a power line that gets hammered by a north wind, and I'll plant it a little wider. But most of my strips and everything through my fields, my cornfield, I'm planting 8 to 10 foot, no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know it's not, the plant doesn't really down, but you never know. You got to have some really hard winds come through. You just never know what's going to happen, right?
Oh yeah, and you get some of these, and I'll tell you what, this year was we have some bad this year.
Exactly.
Ice and everything else.
I thought I'd seen somebody ask me what my favorite mixes were, so I'm gonna. I actually have this on my phone there, and I look at this every year, and there's new products coming out, right? But this is the old school stuff that I love: a honey hole and radish mix. Okay, and I overseed radishes about 1 pound to the acre into the honey hole. Okay, and this actually came from Todd.
Yep.
I was talking to Todd. I'm like, look, man, I need to keep my deer, because on some of these smaller plots, like we're talking about on these smaller properties, I need to keep them in there year round, not just certain times. I want to keep them in there, right? Because of obvious reasons. And then another mix that I use is the slam dunk and kale, and I overseed the kale 1 pound to the acre in the slam dunk. You can also add lights out to that as well. And sometimes I overseed oats and a lot of things. I overseed beans. I always wait till the beans are just starting to turn yellow, and then I'll go in there and you see some of these guys got these giant tractors and all these cool things. Not me. Jumping in, I just walk through it and just cranking away, right? Just throwing that seed as far as I can throw it. I'll be out there 8 hours in different food plots, just throwing that oats around as far as I can. Because I don't know how you feel about it, but I've always had the luck with oats that they'll darn near grow on a sidewalk crack.
Oh, they will. They will.
And and I know that they do end up. The reason I do it, I'm all over the map here, but the reason I do it when the beans start to turn yellow, that's usually around that 7th to the 15th of September, somewhere there, which is a little late for a lot of people, but I don't want the oats to mature.
Right.
And what happens is whenever the beans leaves start to fall off, well, then all them oats come up, and you basically have a double food plot. If you're lucky enough to have some standing beans and some oats mixed, I mean, that's
money in the bank. Yeah.
That's money in the bank when it comes January.
Yes, it is.
So those are some of my favorite mixes. Now I do use the trophy clover whenever the big plots I got.
Mm-hmm.
I use the clover. I use that. This is it's no secret that we mix everything with ag fields because I can, right? I have the opportunity to do that. Right. And the way I did that is I actually spoke with my farmer and said, "Hey, look, I marked this off on GPS, and people see these white posts on the show, like out at the ends of these food plots. And I've had so many people ask me, what are those white posts? Are they like yardage markers?" I'm like, no, but they are now. So I started using like this exact distances. Basically, it stops the farmer. I beat fence posts on the ground, and I put a 10-foot post on top of it with orange flags on top of PVC. Farmer knows, stop right there, and that's mine. I pay him for that, right? And I know it's hard to find a farmer that doesn't want to cut everything. I get that. But the way I got around that on him is I said, look, you just take the average across the entire farm, and I'll give you that per acre, what your yield is, right? And I know we're kind of getting sidetracked from all the other stuff, but that's how I get that done. So I can go in there and I can design my plots how I want to design them, using all the Antler King edges and all the crisscrosses, everything I want to do to get my deer where I need them to be. That's how I do it. And one more thing about the kill plots that we do, once we got all of the, whether it's barricade or it's standing corn or beans or whatever, and we got all that taken care of, and we got it stripped out, and we got our Antler King strips all planned how we want, I actually, and I don't know who came up with this idea, but I just started kind of doing it. We put scrape trees right there, right at that center of that X, puts about like 20 to 25 yards. And them bucks can't take it. When you do that, they come in there, and you always put that scrape, because you're going to make a mock scrape on this thing, on your side of the tree. Mm-hmm. Because that way, when he comes in broadside, or he's quartering away from you, and he's working that scrape. So you got the perfect shot every time.
Right. That's very good advice there. Yeah, that is.
You'd be well, because I've made that mistake. Putting it on the wrong side of the tree before. So there's that. And that combination of, as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of these backwoods kill plots. That's my favorite plots. And they come down them strips, they hit that scrape tree, they can't take it, man. They're going to sit there and they're going to work that mock scrape, which gives you all the time in the world that you need to try and get a shot on them, right? Mm-hmm. And then, the other plots that don't have the scrape trees, like I said, the biggest advice I can give anybody is just make sure you put them strips where they're going to come by you, obviously within bow range. If you're a bow hunter, come by you within bow range, but you got to have the shot that you can get. They can't be quartering at you. They got to be quartering away from your broadside. So you got to think about that as well. Then you got to think about what wind direction, where do the majority of the deer come into the food plot? How do they come into the food plot, right? Because you want to give them a lane that come right to you, right? And so if they're coming in on the southeast corner, and you got a lane that runs from the southwest to the northeast, they may never hit that lane. Right. You know what I'm saying? You want to welcome them. So here's a welcoming mat. Come right down here so I can shoot you. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Things like that. It's just, they matter. It's the littlest intricacies that people don't think about, So anyway.
Very good advice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, we got any other questions over there?
Well, we got a lot of guys praising you on here, thanking you for all your knowledge.
No.
Jump back up here to the top.
You make enough mistakes, eventually you start figuring some things out. But that just matters. And I'm not trying to pimp myself here, but I will be starting to write some articles for some magazines as well, because they've asked me to do it. So, that's coming down the pipe as well. And then
we got one guy on here asking you, are you hunting mostly from ground or elevated?
Well, here's the thing. My mom shot her first deer this year at 74 years old out of a ground blind on a oat and corn plot. Okay. Yep. And it's the first time I've shot a deer out of a ground blind in probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, because the only reason I'm not against ground blinds at all, but here's the deal. When you're filming, it's a different ball game. Now you got blinders on, right? Now you're doing, your camera doesn't do it. It's just it's a real, to me, it's kind of a boring. I don't know how to explain that to the audience. It's kind of, I mean, just not a lot of, you can't do a lot of cool things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I had my choice and I wasn't filming, I was just hunting, it didn't matter to me. I'd hunt them out of a ground blind, I'd hunt them out of a box blind, I'd hunt them out of a tree stand. And like guys will ask me too, like, well, how high are your stands? I'm like, because contrary to popular belief, I'm not as high as what a lot of people think, because GoPros make things look like they're 5,000 miles away if you got another angle over your head, right? And the deer's below you.
Right.
Anywhere from 12 feet, 10 feet, all the way up to 25 feet, just literally depending on the cover and what I feel like the thermals are doing in that particular area. That's the biggest thing for me, is what the wind's actually going to do,
Right.
Because if I want to hunt low enough, I can hang on the backside of the tree and use that as my cover, right? I also do a lot of self-filming, so that I don't have to worry about, I kind of nixed, I shouldn't say I nixed, because I still hunt with camera guys once in a while, but I kind of nixed camera guys because, well, I don't want to copy somebody, but I saw this on a rock documentary, and it made sense to me. It's Metallica of all things. A guy on there says, it related to self-filming. There's a certain amount of individualism whenever you're self-filming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's your moment,
yeah.
right? That's yours to make or break, right? Yep. And that's why I love it so much, because it's that chasing that adrenaline. That's why I like to do it that way. Mm-hmm. And it's just another level of challenge that I don't know if a lot of guys are willing to take that chance.
Right.
I mean, it's different. I've had a lot of really big deer get by me because I couldn't film them and shoot them. I actually let the cat out of the bag. I missed a big 170 class buck this year, fellas, because I was trying to self-film it and he would not stop. I missed him by a mile, just so y'all know. It'll be on the show, but one of those deals. He was in the corner of a food plot. He come out. I rattled because he went back into the timber. I let him go into the timber for about 2 or 3 minutes. Let him get kind of down in there a little bit because I don't want him to catch me. I always turn my back too. And I rattled real hard. And I looked over, and he was already standing at the edge, and he's looking out the hole. He went and he's standing, and he's just looking. Here he come on a fast trot, and he would not stop. I'm like, I'm like trying to move the camera with my elbow, and I was a mess. But I missed him. But and that's the buck I was telling you that I was looking for. I didn't find his sheds this year. That's the buck.
That's him.
That's him. He's there. He's got to be there. I mean, but I don't know where he dropped his antlers at. But I think they dig a hole once in a while. Just they all get together and throw them in a hole.
Throw them in somewhere, yeah.
I'm telling you, man. It's like, really? But I mean, yesterday you had your antlers. You're in a food plot again. I know it's you. You got a double throat patch, and you're with this same group of bucks.
Yep.
I can't find your antlers. I was like, where did you drop them?
It's amazing how I don't know how they do it. I don't know. You can search and search and search and search and not find anything. And they just dropped them the night before.
And here's the thing about it, and I mean this like wholeheartedly, guys. If you're going to shed antler hunt, a lot of guys are like really getting into it now.
Oh yeah.
If you got a decent enough property, you can trust your neighbors or whatnot, and you got Antler King plots, and if you know the bucks have been going in there and you got your cameras and you're watching, just leave it alone, man. There's no reason. One buck drops an antler. There's no reason to go in there and try to find that antler. It'll still be there,
Yep.
No, albeit that some of mine had squirrels chewing them up pretty good, but I didn't care. I was trying to get that one buck's antlers,
Right.
So this guy asked, do you ever plant your food plots near or along a water source? You want to take that one?
Well, I actually have some water source wise as a creek, actually not like a watering station, but a creek. I do, but it's a high bank where I don't have to worry about flooding. But that's the only spot that I really plant towards water. Actually, all my properties have water going through them, so I'll use the use of a creek, and I do plant next to water.
I would say that. Yes, it really truly depends on once again, I'm going to go all the way back to how you want to use the farm for me and which property it is. Just running through my head, yes, I do have a plot along a creek. Most of the time I utilize creeks though for the rut. And I think use that as a corridor. But again, that's just the natural deer movement I've learned from postseason scouting, right?
Right.
You start finding that out. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking about pretty much every farm we got has a creek running through it one way or another,
Yep.
And there's Yeah, I did. Okay, 2 years ago, I did. I don't have this property anymore. 2 years ago, I had a food plot, two food plots, and they got flooded out.
Yep.
I did not expect the water to come up that high, and it ruined our food plots. And when that happened, the deer movement and the deer stopped showing up. Basically, there's nothing there. It just all rotted, you know.
Right.
So that's that. But
Now, I will add to this, and I'm not going to mention his name because he'd be mad at me if I do. But I have a friend. I have a friend over in Indiana that he actually put a trough, a watering trough, 300-gallon tank, out in the middle of his clover field. And how this clover field is set up, he can see it from his house. And he has another water source, a natural water source, creek goes through there. And now this is going to sound like a sales gimmick, and it's not, but he started putting power rack or mineral into the water tank with the water.
Mhm.
And I've talked to Todd about it, and we've heard. I mean, and it sweetens it up. I mean, the deer love it. Love it good. Love it enough that I wish I could do it in Illinois, but I can't. But he will literally watch them deer come across the creek, walk through the water, come straight to the tank, drink out of the tank, and start eating clover. And he'll video it all the time. But them deer will walk right through that creek and stand in water and come to that tank with that power rack in that water, mixed in with it. He mixes a 5-pound bag per 300 gallons of water, and they will drink that tank dry. I mean, it is nuts.
I'm jealous now.
Yeah,
anything you can do to get an advantage on these guys, man. These things, they don't mess around. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah, and it was just like it was trial and error. He just thought one day, I'm just going to try it, and it's legal over here. I'm going to try it and give it a shot. And he started sending videos and started. I mean, it's amazing. And now I go a lot. I've had a lot of guys. They've been doing it here lately, and it makes a big difference.
I mean, I actually have a Banks trough. It's one of those with the water deals, right? It holds like, I don't know, I think it holds 100 gallons.
Yeah.
I actually kind of stopped using it just because I was in a spot that was really hard to get to have to water it, and I had to have another tank to go out there to put it in. And it just wasn't convenient, so I just stopped dealing with it. But I will tell you this: there was no mineral in it, obviously, but stop and use it because it was in the middle of the farm where there was virtually no water, and I could watch the bucks cutting across. They would cut across right at the end of the food, a whole blocker there, and they would cut right into that blocker, and like 5 yards inside that blocker was that Banks watering trough, and they would sit there and then they'd go back on their way again. It's like, so it does work,
Yeah,
especially if you could,
Yeah.
Robbie, I'm going to ask you this: is there a certain direction you like to hang on a food plot, north, south, whatever, or is it strictly wind based for you?
It's wind based. I mean, it depends on what this wind's going to do. I have two properties. One that I literally can't hardly hunt this property without something out of the north, and another property, how they're set up and how the bedding area is, I need a south something out of it. So, when it comes, I mean, how I hang my stands on them plots are going to be based on what property is and the wind direction.
So it's funny you say that because we say that all the time amongst my guys in our different farms. Like, I go to certain farms because of certain winds. Right? Like, I don't care how big the farm is. A lot of times the way your draws and everything work out is like a south wind farm or it's a north wind farm. It's a predominant wind that you got to have, right? So knowing this, on a south wind farm, most of the time if I can, like it's depending on if you want to utilize the area, I try to have it where I hunt it on a south wind, right? It's just common sense when it comes to that. But sometimes, I mean, you can get away with some crazy things. But then I got small tracks that are at north wind. It's the only wind you can hunt them on. I mean, I'm not talking straight north, the north, northeast, northwest wind. It's a north wind. Obviously you try to set your plots up where you're hunting on the south side of the plot, right? And a lot of guys, I hear myself talking about, hunting on top of food plots, and a lot of guys are like, man, you sure that's a good idea? If you're doing it right, which it can be difficult, it can. I mean, sometimes it's trial and error. Yeah, to me, it's like one of the hottest spots on the farm to like catch your bucks, right? If on an unpressured area, like my bucks come in there. Oh, I shot it was a Prince buck about 4 or 5 years ago. He was in there I could just never catch up to this deer. It was a 3-year quest to shoot this deer. By the time I shot him, he was so old. He was blind, deaf, and dumb. And that's why I got a chance to kill him. But I got him. But anyway, no. It was 2017 or 18. He finally come in. He was always in a plot, right? But it's always one of those deals, man. The wind was not right for me to be in there with him. So I killed him on what I call the almost right for him and almost wrong for the wind. And
Right.
y'all may have heard that other places before, but that wind is the killingest wind you'll ever have, in my opinion. And I had he come from the southeast, and I had basically almost a straight west to a little bit of a southwest wind. So it was hairy how he came in, but I got him. Okay. But I've also hunted that plot enough times to understand how those winds work, because I've actually blew some other deer out of there by accident in years past, thinking that my thermals were doing something different. And then you're like, the wind's blowing this way, but the deer's south. How did that deer wind me? You know what I mean? You start figuring out that you start weird coolies and different things in there. You know what I mean? But Kyle, do you burn off your old plots in the spring, or I just turn them under? Honestly, I just turn them under, because to me that just helps get that soil ready even more. You know.
Yep.
What's a 6,000 square foot plot in the woods, only about 20 yards wide, been planting honey hole, but it gets hammered. I can see that if you got a little high deer densities. And about gone by October 1. What else could I try to plant? That's on you. What do you?
Well, we were just talking about that earlier. You know, you need to get something in there than perennial. Get some perennials in there. If you're gung ho on using the annuals, you know, I'm gonna put some cereal rye in with it, something that is going to grow just as fast as the deer eat it. So you can incorporate some of that in there with it. But I would definitely get in there with some sort of a perennial. And it looks like if you're growing honey hole, you're getting a decent amount of light in there. If you wasn't, it wouldn't grow. So, I mean, I'm a perennial guy. I mean, I'm planting perennials in it. I want something that's going to last 3 to 4 to 5 years and continue coming back. But again, cereal rye works very well. And actually, cereal rye works as just like a perennial for the first year. It will literally come back about a month earlier than any other spring green up the next spring, and stay for about 3 months before it dies off, and it offers about 30% protein. So it's very, very good for the deer, especially them bucks and them does. That's just how I'm gonna put it. I'd say perennials, and maybe some cereal rye. You know, the honey hole, they're gonna wipe that out. I can understand completely what you're dealing with there, with 6,000 square foot. It don't take very many deer to wipe it out, especially when it turns sweet. So
I'm listening to you talk like that. That guy right there has got a lot of knowledge in his head. Like I'm writing notes. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm serious, man. There's some. You've been around the block a few times with this stuff, man.
A couple times, yeah. Learn from my mistakes.
Right here, buddy. All day, every day. It's like, oof, man, oh man.
Yeah. Mark Coleman looks like he's getting off here tonight. Mark, I appreciate you being on here, bud. When mowing your clover, how high do you like to leave it? With me, I'm leaving mine. It actually, it's really going to depend. I like leaving my clover when I'm cutting it. I'm about that 6 to 7 inch line is where I like leaving up.
Try to knock the tops off, so to speak. That's why I was explaining to people. I don't know. That's about the way you say it, about 7 inches, I guess.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you what, I do something a little different, and I know I don't know about you, Kyle, but a good friend of mine, Cody Jarrett, we both do it. He thought he didn't want to tell me that he did it, and I didn't want to tell him that I did it, and come to find out we both do the same thing.
Okay.
And that is, if we're getting a lot of moisture, and if we're getting, some weeds and grass in there, and we're getting a lot of moisture, and we don't got to worry about burning the plants or nothing like that, I will literally get in there and I'll knock my clover down low. I mean, I'll mow it low, and to get rid of a lot of that, and it will just start growing up so much quicker. It'll smother out them weeds and grasses. But I'm only doing that when I have a lot of moisture in the ground, got moisture coming. It's not in the middle of 100-degree weather.
Okay.
I don't want to stress the plant.
I was going to ask you what time of the year you would do something like that. You can basically it's not going to do it in the middle of summer, obviously.
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, usually people are going to think I'm crazy, but I actually do it early. A lot of people they can't wait for this clover to get up and it's starting to look good. And we got the moisture coming in. The heat's not here yet. and I start seeing some weeds and grasses, and I'll spray for it too. But I'll start seeing some that looks like it can get out of hand or some kind of ground cover. I'll do it then right before the heat of summer. Get it knocked down so to start growing. And I'll tell you what, it don't take long. It jumps right back up, and it's real healthy and going good. So.
Okay. How about, we're kind of getting past that in our neck of the woods. How about frost seeding your clover?
Yep.
Explain that to everyone, how you go about doing it. And I did not compare apples to apples on how you explain it.
There's a couple different ways I look at frost seeding clover. Number one, the true frost seeding, I've done it early. I've done it later in the frosty time of the year, but I like going in and frost seeding my clover when I'm starting to get them. I'm having them freezing nights. It's starting to thaw out during the day, and it's going to freeze again at night. I like that fluctuation right there where it sucks that in. Now another thing that I like doing is, a lot of people don't think they can do it, but you got clover plots right now, or let's say honey hole plot. The deer completely ate a honey hole plot down. I will go in every year with some clover on my honey hole plots. I rotate every 2 to 3 years, but if I'm going to have them for that next year, I'll put clover down and let clover go through there for the summer, and then I'll work it up and I'll plant my honey hole, my slam dunk, and all that. I'll go in there this time of year, we're getting these rains, the frost is out of the ground, the soil's bare. You can literally broadcast that like our trophy clover mix or a game changer. You can broadcast that right over that soil. Mother Nature will set it for you, and you'll get a good stand that way too. You don't have to go, oh man, the frost is out of the ground, I can't plant my clover now. I can't clover seed over it. You can, but you just got to find the right time to do it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, pretty much. You hit the nail on the head. I'm looking for that freezing at night, thawing during the day, freezing at night, thawing. That's the same exact thing, because that seed just works its way in a little bit. Like I said, Mother Nature takes care of itself for you. And it's, is it as good as I guess it can be? I guess it depends. I've had some really awesome stands of clover by doing it that way.
Some of the best clover stands I ever had is because of frost seeding, because every time you get in there and work that soil with a disc or tiller, you're bringing up weed seeds. Yep. So if you're going in there and doing it during a frost seeding application, you're not bringing all them up. So the weed and grass issues aren't near as bad as is working the soil and planting.
Yeah. See, that's some genuine advice right there.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. But, dude, I'm a diehard clover guy. When it comes to clover, I think that's why I'm single. She left me because I wouldn't quit talking about it. So.
There's so many things I could say, but I'm not going to. Oh man, that's something. This guy says, appreciate it. Guy says, I love the adrenaline show. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I really do. It's always a work in progress. I don't want anybody to think it's not. But we do not know everything there is to know about whitetails. But we certainly like to get out there and learn a bunch more. Right, just how it is. Right.
Well, I'll tell you what, and you brought this up a minute ago. To me, there's a lot of good hunting shows out there right now, and I watch a lot of them just because I'm in the industry. I'm always trying to keep up with what everybody's doing, this and that, just like you are. And when you start talking about the self-filming, to me, that's the shows I want to watch, because it's going to sound weird, but it makes me feel like I'm in there hunting. Because when somebody's sitting there behind your shoulder and filming, they're watching everything. When you're self-filming and you're trying to get that camera on that deer, like you said, with your elbow, that's the stuff I'm watching. That is, because that's right down to the wire. To me, it's something about that.
It's I didn't name the show Adrenaline for no reason, I'll tell you.
No kidding. Yeah.
I love it when I see another show and say, "Man, my adrenaline was pumping." I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." Because bug fever is actually a dose of adrenaline hitting your body. It's what it actually is. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's I run. Gosh, sometimes I run 3 camera angles plus the main camera. Sometimes I only run 2. My go-to is 2 4K GoPros, and I set them up one over my shoulder where you kind of get me, the camera, and the deer. You kind of see what's going on in the tree. And the other one's either pointing right back at me. It just depends on what I got for limbs and wherever I can put them, right? But I've gotten pretty creative over the years. And, the biggest thing is, if you're going to sell film, is knowing the height. It's going to sound crazy of all things. Knowing the height to put your main camera, because it can be a pain if it's too high, man, and that deer starts coming too close, and you're trying to get to that LCD screen. It can be a mess, right? Plus, there's an added handicap for me, I guess you'd call it. I don't really consider myself being handicapped, being said I'm left-handed, but all your video cameras are set up to where they're going to your right side. Well, my bow goes in my right hand.
Yeah.
So you're right. So I gotta so the way I figured out how to do it for any lefty out there is if you're gonna self film, obviously you still gotta have the camera on your right side. And I always put it about going back to that. Oh, the lens on the camera is about belly button high. That's the perfect height to where you can still get everything you need to get done. If you need to do your interview, you can like just sit down, turn the camera to you. It's perfect level, right, to be talking to the camera. But what I've learned to do is I hook my release on the loop already, and I take my left hand and I hang on to the strings and the cables, all of it, just wadded up like that, and I just kind of run the camera, and my cameras are all on a manual setting, so I have to like if I have to do something, I gotta like hang my bow back up and re-rack everything. But I usually got it all set as the deer's coming in because I've been doing it for so long, I just kind of know how to do it. So but I get myself in some serious pickles. Here be the first one to tell you. Happened this year, right? 37 years of bow hunting, and I still got screw ups going on. But for the most part, that's self filming. I mean, when all the cameras are running, and you got your main camera, and I'm gonna go right back to saying this. That's probably why I like hunting kill plots so much because I literally can put the deer where I need him to be so I can shoot him. Right.
Yeah.
I mean that's a testament right there. For if nothing else, if you're just bowing and you want to put the deer where you want them, that's how you do it. So if you watch a show, you see these deer coming in. That's why everything is set up like it is. So he stops at like 20 yards. This year, the buck, just like I said, he was just rolling through, and he wouldn't stop. Now the second buck, I shot that bully buck. Like I said, it's before Christmas, and then I had a pretty rough deer season. I had a lot of big encounters. Just never worked out, right? It's bow hunting, and we're not hunting tame deer by any stretch. Not hunting inside of a high fence, so here we are. But the second buck I shot is actually out of the same food plot. It was like 3 or 4 days before my mom shot her deer. It was a buck. Now get this, it was a buck that's been on that farm. I know that. I'm telling you, Robbie, that deer was 8 years old. I know guys say that. Oh, sure. Well, sure. No, I'm telling you, that deer was 8 years old. I'm telling you. And he was on the farm 4 years ago, and he was big. He was a big 4-year-old. I'm like, this deer is a hammer, right? And I would get trail cam videos of him. He would be just off from the king plot, actually, that I call the king plot. He'd be off in his king plot like 150 yards, and he would always be over there working these scrapes. And guys are like, well, if he's in there working the scrapes, why can't you kill him? He's in there in the daylight. Well, he's in there when the wind's right for him and wrong for me, right? Exactly. So I can't ever hunt him, right? So he would do this to me every year, and I never saw that deer with the naked eye in 4 years until the night I shot him.
Oh, wow.
Never once, not one time. But he lived on the farm. He was always under my nose.
Yep.
This goes to show you how they are.
Oh, yeah. Like, yeah.
So I think it was 3 days before I shot him, I couldn't believe it. I got a picture of him in the daylight coming into this king plot. Normally, he would shift in January to his feed pattern, and he'd be in the same plot every year. But it was always like midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, how do you hunt that, right? And all of a sudden, I had to look 3 times at them, like, that's him, man. Holy crap. And, well, day 2, he did it. And day 3, he did it. I'm like, I looked at day 4, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I have the perfect wind to hunt this deer. If he does this one more time, I got him. I got in the stand at 3 o'clock. At 3:45, I shot him. Wow. He literally did the exact same thing. And he came in with 2 other bucks. And another buck he came in with was a really nice deer. But nothing. This deer's mass, well, he had, it was just under 42 inches in mass. That's how thick it is. Yeah, great mass.
Yeah.
And not long tines. Well, I don't care. He's whatever. He's an old deer. And he come in. It was 35 yards. I ranged him twice. Same deal. All the cameras are going. You can watch it on the TV. I hold the bull like I tell you. I'm holding it. Mm-hmm. Feeding in the oats and the corn. And I just get everything set up, and I draw back. And when I draw back, the buck in front of him, if I remember, it looks at me a little bit. So like, uh-oh, right? But I bet this, 3/4 draw, right?
Oh, okay.
Plunk, right? And he just kind of went back to feeding, and I just took my time, and I got lucky, made a good shot. Deer went 50 yards down the draw, but point is that all of that self-filming and,
yep.
all of that come into play with the fact that that deer had been on that farm for that long. He got so used to coming to that same plot. I never moved that plot.
Yep.
So he was doing the same routine. And I guess he finally was like, you know what? I've been doing this for so long. Nothing's ever spooked me or anything like that. I'm just going to march in the daylight. Well, he lost it, you know. But so again, if it wasn't for the Antler King plot and all of that, and then playing it smart, it's like I said, it's all encompassing. Was that you go after these big deer? They're a different animal, man. And
right.
I'm obviously not really good at it. It took me 4 years to shoot him, so so there's that. But I'm a patient man. So
right.
But so there's that. But so yeah, that was how my season went, man. It was really rough, and then it got really, really good. But so don't count me out. If I don't have anything dead at the end of December.
No, I never count you out. Don't worry about that. I know better than that.
All right. So.
Well, we're getting actually we're over, so we're getting close to the end of it here. But I do see one question here. I think we should answer. Sean's asking about what's your go-to weed killer. Now, this question came up right after us talking about clover, so I'm thinking he's talking about clover. Sean, if you're on here still, let me know. But killing my plots off, I'm just using glyphosate. But if I'm using a weed killer in my clover, I'm using 2,4-DB. But just to let you know, if you're using like our trophy clover, it has chicory in it. Any kind of broadleaf killer you spray on that is actually going to kill the chicory. It won't kill a clover, but it will kill a chicory. So, and then for grass control on the clover, clover, there he is. And the clover grass control clethodim works excellent. You're not gonna kill the chicory or the clover in it, but you will kill the chicory with 2,4-DB, trying to kill out the broadleafs in it.
Well, there you go. That's a great way to end this whole thing.
That's a great way to end it. So, but buddy, man, I appreciate you coming on here, and we're definitely going to do it again. And I got a feeling everybody on here is going to tell me make sure that happens. So it's going to work out great. And and leave on this note, I hope everything's going all right with you and the dog, bud. I hate to hear that's going on, but I'll be praying for you guys, because that's a rough one. I know it for a fact.
Yeah, it is. Everybody out there's probably got a dog. Everybody that hunts usually has dogs. So
no, they do. It's they're not a dog, they're family. So
exactly right.
That's the thing right there.
So I appreciate that, man. It was great talking to you tonight, and you're a very, very knowledgeable food plot master. How's that sound?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure the right words.
I don't know about master, but I will. I'm working on it. So, but
work in progress. Me too.
Work in progress. There you go. So, hell, I'm single, so I got all the time in the world to work on it now. So, hell.
Hear that, ladies? Hear that, ladies? So, all right, buddy.
But, all right, man. Buddy, you take care. You need something, let me know. And oh, by the way, get me your order in, if you would, on what you're wanting for product.
All right, easy enough.
I'll get that sent over with that new secret mix.
I like that.
There you go.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, man. You take care. Everybody, you guys all have a good night out there tonight.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you.
All right. See you, bud.
Bye.
Bye.